Frank from Upstream. And if you remember from last week, I talked about how Christians are supposed to take their lead from the Bible and not the peanut gallery on how they are to conduct themselves publicly in society. And I referenced how John the Baptist was calling Herod out on his immoral standards and the way he was living his life. And of course, the peanut gallery says, oh, preachers are not supposed to talk about politicians publicly. Well, today I'm going to do that. And so we're in the middle of a very, very important election season. And I'm going to take my lead from John the Baptist and talk publicly about politicians, mostly about politics and about the coming election. And so I want to paint a picture for you that will maybe help with your thinking in this regard. So imagine a church is in need of a pastor. Let's say they're going through the pastoral change. Church has been around for quite a long time, and they've been founded upon the teachings of the Bible. They've got their constitution and bylaws in place, and now they open their process up for pastors to apply to be the new pastor of the church. And let's say a pastor comes in and he says, in considering me as your pastor, I want you to know that I do not fully believe that the Bible is the Word of God. Therefore, I will not lead the church in a way that would adhere to the teachings of the Bible. What if he were to say, I believe Jesus was a fabulous human being, but I don't believe he was the divine Son of God. I don't believe that he was what he did upon the cross in his death and then his resurrection was sufficient for the sins of the world. I believe we're supposed to work a little bit for God's approval as well. Well, at that point, it would be very clear that that person, if he were to become the pastor of that church, would fundamentally change the nature of that church. In fact, so much so that it would no longer actually be a church. It could be some sort of other organization, but by definition, it wouldn't be a church. So we come to this election season, and I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. That would not be in keeping with what I would want to do as a person. But I do want to direct you in the thoughts of how you should process your vote. I think that when we look at the different candidates locally and nationally, we have a responsibility to observe the way they have governed and the way they say they're going to govern, and measure their moral and ethics based on that. I think we have to look at their social and economic policies and what they have been doing and what they say they're going to do. And we have to look at that and we have to ask, will those things adhere as closely as possible to biblical standards? That's first and foremost. And will they be in keeping with the founding documents of the United States of America, namely our Constitution? So if their moral and ethical standards are contrary to the Bible and to the founding documents of this country, and if their social and economic policies do not adhere to the Bible and to the keeping of the Constitution, then those are the ways we decide who we are to vote for. It's not about liking a personality or wanting to see a certain person get into office because they've never been in office, in that sort of office before. It's not about that whatsoever. It must be about a higher call, namely biblical truth. And will the way they govern, or the way they say they're going to govern, will it fundamentally change the way this country was founded? Will it fundamentally change the way our country runs and be contrary to the way it was founded? Go back to the illustration I did with the church. That person that was wanting to be the pastor of that established church, he should not be the pastor of that church. Hands down. One, because he's not in keeping with the scriptures. But if he wants to lead something, man, like he needs to go start his own organization. It wouldn't be a church based on what he's saying, but he needs to go start his own organization. And likewise, those who want to lead in this country the way that in ways that would fundamentally change our country, I just say, man, they should go start their own country somewhere. I don't mean to be rude about that. I don't mean to be overly forthcoming about it, but this country was founded on particular standards and principles, and those are lasting principles. They're timeless principles that are for the good of mankind and of civilization. And if a person's going to govern in a way that would fundamentally change that, I don't think they should be in office. I think they should go try to do their own thing, but not change this country. And so there you go, friends, talking about politics, not necessarily politicians. And you vote according to your convictions with regard to biblical standards and the way this country was founded. That's my counsel. All right, there you go, a drink from Upstream.